Ben, can you confirm we're live? Okay, we're live, Mayor.
Good to go.
All right, so let's start up. Let's call the meeting to order. Let's do a pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So I will do a roll call in about 10 seconds. And I'm starting
12.
on the left, and I see Molly and Justice and George and Lee and Paloma and Ren and Dan. Everyone's here. I see the city administrator. I believe our city attorney is online. Can you?
Yes, good evening.
Hey, Nick. And that takes care of that. So first we have a community segment. It's very brief. I have a certificate of recognition for James Babcock, and if I could come on up and I'll hand it to you and we'll go from there. Let's go to the podium.
Good, how you doing?
Let me step in here.
Sure.
If you come over there. And I just have to give you a certificate of recognition from the City of Beacon that's presented to James Jimbo Babcock in recognition and appreciation of more than 27 years of dedicated public service to the City of Beacon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.
I just want to say, I was born and raised in this town. It was very nice. I never thought I would end up working for him, not even this long, but I did. I enjoyed every day, had some long ones, hard ones, and some easy ones. But I have to say, I enjoyed every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
All right. Public comments. So I've got two people on the list. Looks like Clark Gebman. You're up.
Clark Edmond, 2 Wilson Street, good evening. I'd like to return in some manner to the Tompkins affordable housing presentation from the last meeting. Noting that the narrative stated that the city was fully familiar with the financial terms or the structure, or the just how all the money worked, is essentially just to paraphrase. Which means you're all aware as to the reconciliation of the purchase and all the construction terms. Assuming that's the case, I'd like to just kind of like review my take on that financial package briefly, because I only have a minute and a half or whatever. When the original presentation was made as to the amount of construction workers that would take for the year to do it, I remember calculating distinctly at $100,000 per worker that the investment would be about $4 million in wages, and based on my experience, throw another $4 million in materials, because it kind of works like that in some measure sometimes. You're at $8 million, and it's $14 million. And I said, well, they're probably doing the acquisition cost, which is perfectly fine. But on a 40-year term, you have something called a reversion. So you pay the mortgage off in 20 years, and then in another 20 years, you get to refinance it. But you can also finance it now today with a bond that would take ownership over that money due in 20 years, and the effect is, using the CPI, that all of a sudden a $2 million asset becomes a $6 million, and there was never any money laid out by the owner. A little quick on the math, but I assume each one of you understand that. And if you don't understand it, you should go back and look at the papers while they're ripe and get an understanding. Because it's precisely what you can do as a city, as the housing authority, to create affordable housing in City of Beacon. So if you don't have the knowledge and the finances, then you should be tutored in it, and you should hire a consultant to explain it to you. I suppose that's what's necessary. The point is that the hostage taking of, not wanting the voters to, our friends, to be evicted and want to have affordable housing, that's a laudable, perfectly fine kind of thing. You should be doing it. But if you don't understand the math, then this is a really prime opportunity to not only understand the math for this housing plan, but also for the existing ones that were granted, let's say, over the last 20 years.
15 seconds.
If you dive into these structures that have been granted in the city of Beacon over the last period of time, the knowledge you will generate will flower and enable you to do some meaningful things for affordable housing in the city. Thank you.
Thank you. James, you're on the list. Did you want to speak as well, or? That's what I was figuring. So, anyone else would like to speak in terms of public comments? Come up, state your name, where you live.
Teresa Kraft, Beacon. While everyone is trying to be number one, passing new laws in the city, many that will be eventually shot down in Albany, the most recent one fueled by sub-activist groups with no allegiance to the city, many not even residents or homeowners within our community, touting in the media how they got you to pass a new law for them. Will we get a refund from our paid legal counsel? Better yet, who is minding the store? Who is watching our historic streetscapes? Who's protecting our uniqueness that made us the city of Beacon? We're watching the historic viewshed from the river disappear. We're watching the historic viewshed from the Fishkill Creek disappear. And we're watching our Main Street historic street views continue to disappear. And no one's talking about Beacon's post office, the one listed on the National Register of Historic Places inventory. It's on the Postal Service docket as an initiative to transform the delivery network. Post offices across the country are seeing their carriers slated to be relocated to new sorting and delivery centers, and Beacon is on that master list slated for September 2023. This will be a major blow to our city, a place of reference, a place to bump into your distant neighbors. Not many seem to care that they built an ugly box across the street from it. After these carriers are gone, and more than half the floor space becomes excess, the fate of these post offices will be up in the air. As in Beacon, if the Postal Service owns the building, it could be slated for disposal. Beacon's historic New Deal era post office, constructed with the most notable programs under which artists worked for the Federal Arts Project under President Roosevelt. While you're all looking out for the big blue wave, who's watching out for the little guy? The majority of the city's long-term residents, the ones being overlooked and crowded out of their much-loved community. You say you don't want discrimination in this city, yet you're the ones perpetuating it with your own color theory agenda. Just be for the people, all the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else out in the public? Ben, anyone in the virtual space want a public comment?
If you're on Zoom and you'd like to make a comment, please use the raise hand option at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you are joining us by phone, you can press *9, and you will need to press *6 to unmute once called upon. And if you're watching on YouTube, you will need to join the Zoom by visiting beaconny.gov. And as of now, we have no hands raised on Zoom.
All right. So let's do council reports. You want to start? I don't know, Dan, you want to start at your end? Is that okay?
Yeah, I don't have much tonight. So I won't be able to, I won't be hosting office hours in the month of April because I have some family obligations, but I will resume office hours the third Sunday of May, and that's all I've got.
I don't have much either. I'm just heartbroken and just sending my prayers out to the families who lost their little babies in Nashville at the school shooting today. We disagree on a lot of things, but I do not understand why we cannot agree on banning assault rifles and passing stricter gun control measures in Washington. So that's what's on my mind. Thanks.
Thank you, Ren. I will just say that the community quarterly continues. The ballot of ideas for community climate initiatives that the city should support had a little bit of a delayed launch, but it is up as of today and will be open for the next 2 weeks. You can participate on the city's website, and there will be paper copies of the ballot here at City Hall, as well as at the Recreation Center and the Howland Library. And I will leave it at that for now.
George?
Nothing specific to report, but I was wondering, Nick, if as we begin to enter into discussions and talking about affordable housing and various options available to us, that we get a review of where we are relative to the governor's plan for affordable housing versus the legislature's plan for affordable housing initiatives, and how would they impact Beacon. So I think it would be a good place to start, possibly, and see where we are relative to those percentages that they're possibly mandating. So I look forward to the conversation, but I think it should be relative to what the state is planning, both at the governor's level and the legislator's level. So that's it. Thanks.
Yeah, we'll include that, and we'll also include the county's view of things as well, because they've got their own local report that Ren participated in. So we'll do that. Justice?
Great. I'm going to keep mine as brief as possible. I have nothing to report.
A couple things. I'm going to have my office hours on April 15th. That's a Saturday from 3 to 5 p.m. in Pole Hill Park. And I might be tempting fate a little bit. So if the weather does not cooperate, I will be in Bank Square right next to Pole Hill Park across the street. And the other thing is, just for those who are interested in the Community Investment Grant Program, that the application is now open and it's due on April 7th, so just under 2 weeks away. And you can find out more by visiting our website at beaconny.gov. And that's it. I'll pass it to you, Lee.
I've got what Justice said. No, I have one item. So I just want to pass along to the city administrator that in walking in my neighborhood, the folks on Harbor Hill Court were so pleased with all of the repaving work that was done around them that they were just asking about it. And their access is up Davies South Terrace, which could use some help, as well as Harbor Hill. So if you just ask the building department to take a look at their list. Okay. And that's all I got.
Well, we're to report that Davies South Terrace is on our tentative list for 2023.
That's what I was guessing.
We just did sidewalks in that area and South Avenue, so we're trying to kind of tidy up and finish up there. And we're also trying to do the sidewalk along South Davies. The only announcement I have is that we went out for bid on the firehouse project last week. So we're a little bit behind where I wanted to be, but we're now out to bid, and we hope to launch that project in May. So we expect to bring a series of 7 contracts to you in early May for approval. And you'll see we did close the parking lot to the north of the firehouse because we had done some test boring pits, and those really weren't safe for people to drive over. So if you get questions. That's all I got, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. So let's do our local laws and resolutions. We have several appointments. The first one is Resolution 27, reappointing Larry Clark to the Recreation Committee, and I would look for a motion in a second.
Motion? Second.
So that sounded like Paloma and Wren. I would only add Larry's been on the Rec Committee for a number of years. I've interacted with him several times, and he's been a sort of the stalwart on that committee, and he still wants to keep doing it. So, and that's all I got on him. Any other comments? So this is a voice vote. All in favor of reappointing Larry Clark to the Recreation Committee, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Next one is a new appointment. It's Heidi Kittless to the Recreation Committee. Can I get a motion in a second?
Motion.
Second.
So that sounded like Wren and Justice. I think many of you know Heidi. She lives on the same block as Molly. And she's used to work at Clearwater, too. So
Yeah, I'd say just looking at her resume and some things I didn't know about her, but I think particularly her experience with the cancer support organization that she now leads in Rye and actually expands to all of New York State. I think that's a great example of her building the kind of community of care that we've talked about, a potential future for potentially our rec department. Even Mark has talked about that they get all the questions, and so I love the idea of bringing in her expertise and her experiences as we look into what we might want the future of the rec committee to be.
Okay. So all in favor of Heidi Kidless being appointed to the Recreation Committee, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, two down. So the next one's also for the Recreation Committee. It's Haley Richardson, and I'm looking for a motion and a second.
Motion.
Second.
And so that was Molly and Justice. Hey, Ben, do you want to add anything on Haley Richardson's application?
I would just say that beyond the things that are on her resume and application, she reached out several times and followed up with me, so she was good with communication, and we thought that she seemed on paper to be a good candidate and very invested in joining to help with the new rec committee.
And I'll also add that she's also a Ward 1 resident that I've had the opportunity to connect to, and she brings along with her a professional experience in urban and public transport planning, just a real commitment to the committee, and has reached out really some thoughtful ideas strategically about how we can move our agenda forward. So I think she'll also be a great addition to the rec committee and their strategy and vision.
Okay. So all in favor of appointing Haley Richardson?
Did you get a motion and a second on that?
I did. I think it was
Yes.
Molly and
Yes.
Justice, right?
Got it,
Yep.
okay.
So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Next one is appointing Donna Francis to the Planning Board. Can I get a motion and a second?
Motion?
Second.
So that sounded like Dan and George. And Donna actually put in an application in 2019 before my arrival.
And here she is.
And was, very patient about it. So, I had an opportunity to speak to her. She's still interested, and we'd like to appoint her to the planning board.
And this is her.
Right. Any comments? All right, so all in favor of appointing Donna Francis to the planning board, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right.
Good
Well
timing.
timed.
So the next item is authorizing the renaming of Craig House Lane to Mirbeau Lane. Can I get a motion and a second?
Motion.
Second.
And that was Molly and George. Nick, are you going to tell us something about this one?
I am, yes. So this is a resolution to rename Craig House Lane to Mirbeau Lane. It has been reviewed by the city staff as appropriate and also by county emergency management, confirming that there's no issues with renaming the street, no confusion, and it meets the city code as well as 911 purposes. And so this requires the vote of the city council.
Okay, any questions? or
Yeah, I
comments?
just have a clarifying question about, is there any cost to the city when these private road names get changed, or does the applicant kind of, the
No,
cost of the changes?
It's at the applicant's cost for the cost of the, of a road sign, and so there's no cost to the city.
Thank you.
Okay, so all in favor of renaming Craig House Lane to Mirbeau Lane, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed?
Nay.
All right. So that passes. And then the next item is approving the City of Beacon Fire Department volunteer members on their length of service award program. That's the LoSAP program. Can I get a motion and a second for that?
Motion.
Second.
So that was Justice and Molly. Chris, you're going to tell us about LoSAP?
Yes. Each year, we have to certify the hours and the credits that our volunteers have earned in the fire service. The city adopted a LoSAP program some years ago where people in their retirement can get a small monthly pension for being a volunteer. And each 5 years you volunteer, up to 20, you earn $100. So the top benefit is $400. The New York State Comptroller's Office oversees the program, so each year we have to certify that. You'll see in your packet that the hours, the people's names, and the certification from Chief Gary Van Voris are in your packet.
Can you
Yeah.
clarify when someone gets paid out for this retirement? Is it when they retire as a volunteer, or at some age they reach?
It's when they reach age 62.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Which means they could actually still be serving as a volunteer.
Yes.
I believe, right? Okay.
And you'll see some of them have already maxed out their credit, and they still come to fires, and then other people get a partial credit for the year, depending on how many calls they make and how much training they do.
Okay, any other comments? So all
I would just say our volunteers have saved us a lot of money over the years, so I really do view this as a positive investment in them.
Yep, it's certainly it was a less expensive department when we were largely volunteer. But all in favor of approving the LoSAP program for 2022, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Now the item we're all waiting for, the approval of the minutes of March 20th. I need a motion and a second.
Motion?
So that's Paloma and George. Any changes, additions, corrections, Easter eggs found, or anything else? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes as they are for March
Aye.
20th? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. This is our second opportunity for public comment. If you have not spoken in the first opportunity and would like to speak on any topic of your choice for up to 3 minutes, this is your time. I do not see anyone in the physical audience. Ben, is there anyone in the virtual audience?
There is no hands raised in the virtual audience.
All right. So I think the last item, I think we have an executive session to discuss personnel. If someone would make a motion and second for that purpose.
Motion.
Motion to go into executive session and to talk about personnel and adjourn after.
Immediately thereafter.
Yes, immediately thereafter.
Yes.
I'll second that.
So Justice and George, and again, this is a motion to go into executive session to discuss a personnel matter and then to come out of executive session and to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So I'll thank the public for being here and assure you that this is the last piece of business you just saw, and that you'll only see an adjournment when we come out of executive session.
Record.
Yeah, that's pretty quick.
I'm proud of you.
Oh, it was
Following my
it was
lead, I
all
think.
about comments, right?
Amber would be very proud of this.
Amber would be proud.
She likes the short meeting.
Thanks, Donna.
She had a clock.
Wait
Donna,
to see her in executive
thank you.
session. She's kind of like, all right, got it?
Good luck.
I know.